If we don't have a say in how this unfolds, then heaven help us all.
Hey friends, thanks so much for tuning in. It means so much to us. I want to thank you all and wish you a happy new year. We're in day 5 here of the new year, and so many things are happening. Even the Clintons' house has been on fire. This is definitely going to be an interesting year, so we'll continue to check in with our friend Lynette Zang. She's the Chief Market Strategist over at ITM Trading. Lynette, welcome back.
Oh, it's so good to be here, Sean. What a year this is going to be. It's very exciting.
It's great to
And back-to-back new highs on the markets. Shocker.
Well, it's just terrific to have you back because this market is a very confusing stock market. And I think most of our listeners, a lot of the folks that listen to this program aren't even in the market anymore, for the most part.
Right.
So I want to talk about this. To call it a toppy market is a vast understatement. So let's begin with discussion about the VIX. So Zero Hedge is saying today, I've been following this closely over the past couple of weeks, Dow surges above 25,000 for the first time ever as the VIX, the volatility index, does something it has never done before. The VIX has never traded below 9 2 days in a row, ever. I want you to frame that up for people. How is it that this market hasn't crashed, and is a market crash imminent?
Well, I actually don't think the market crash is imminent because that, of course, is what the tax changes in the tax laws and the repatriation was designed to continue this market in the upward trajectory. Because the reason why it's so confusing is because it's not a real market. And it hasn't been a real market since 2008. That's when it died and it became a central banker's market. And because of all of the new tools, all of the derivative contracts that have gotten, much larger than they were in 2008, and the speculative derivatives that kicked off in the 90s. Okay, you don't have to buy a stock, right? You can buy an index or you can buy a derivative on that stock or that company and push the price up artificially so that the public that puts their money into 401ks and IRAs and thinks that the stock market tells us that everything is just fine. I mean, that's really what it is. But we are in a blow off right now. So in other words, this market cannot correct 4%, or it becomes obvious that all the banks are insolvent. And since they're all interconnected, it's game over. But think about Venezuela's the best stock market in the world in 2013 as they were entering the hyperinflationary phase, right? And we are, not one doubt whatsoever in my mind, we are in the transition to a new money standard and actually globally a new financial system. A whole new society, a whole new way of life. And so they have to get as many people, they don't want you to see what's happening. So a rising stock market is about covering that up. That's really what this is about.
Yeah. I want to take everybody just on a very brief walk down memory lane here. This may predate your involvement in YouTube, Lynette, so I'm not sure if you know who Pastor Lindsey Williams is. He gets maligned for a lot of his predictions, but he worked at the Prudhoe Bay oil pipeline up there in Alaska for years and years, and he pastored to the men that worked on the oil pipeline, and he became friends, he says, with a couple of elite insiders, and he'd always share this information. I just want to share this tidbit with folks because it turns out he was 100% right. I remember around 08, 09, 10, 11, when I even interviewed him a couple times, he said, my elite friends say they are going to run the stock market up to unimaginable heights. This is back, I think, when the Dow was still below 10,000, or maybe around 10,000. He said unimaginable heights. Do you think today Dow 25,000 is unimaginable when we sat back at 10,000? He said they're going to run it up to unimaginable heights, and when you think it can't go any higher, it will go higher.
It will go higher.
And he said what you need to watch out for is that when the euro crashes, the euro will go first, and you'll have a week or two to get out because the dollar's next, and then the whole house of cards comes down. I think that those views and that prediction will probably prove to be very prescient.
Well, I just got chills, And typically, when something is absolutely true, I will get chills about it, and that sounds right because the euro dollar was a failed experiment to begin with. It doesn't make any sense. No two economies are alike, so no two monetary policies can be alike. But here they're trying to put this whole group of countries in one basket. It doesn't really work. Not as long as there are separate countries, which is really, I think what they've been experimenting with is creating a one world. Right? So there's only one government. There's only one monetary system. I mean, we're going to have some little offshoots of that because we're not ready to go to that complete level yet. But that is the goal. So yes, I think I am familiar with him. And I think that is an absolutely accurate statement.
Yeah.
And I don't think this market is done. I think maybe toward the end of this year that this activity with the tax and the repatriation may start to wear off because there are just too many pattern shifts that I'm noticing now too. I mean, things are definitely speeding up. But yeah, I don't think this market run is done. I'm not in it. I'm not going to play it. I'm not a speculator. I don't care.
Yeah. In a video I've been working on here, I made the comment that I think the Rothschilds famously said that they like to leave the last 10% to the suckers. But in this market, who can say where the last 10% is? Because it just keeps going higher and higher and higher.
Here's the thing about that. And I don't have that graph, but history shows us that it's the greater fool theory. Okay, this market can go like this, but here's the problem. There are no buyers on the other side.
No liquidity.
Right. There's no liquidity. Exactly. And that's been true, according to the Treasury, since 2013. They've been talking about the lack of liquidity in the stock, well, primarily actually in the government bond market, in the Treasury market. So the thing is, yeah, you can be in it and let it go to 50,000. But if you, along with a number of other people, want to liquidate, there are no buyers on the other side, it goes like that. It drops straight like a stone.
Yeah, and it's not hard to imagine when we're looking at the price of some of these individual stocks being over $1,000 for one share of Amazon. It's not going to be moms and pops that are buying, thousands of shares of Amazon as this market falls. They're going to be trying to sell anything they have as well. But guess who gets out the door first? The hedge funds and the insiders. And as you've been documenting for us, the insiders and corporations have been selling all along.
Oh, exactly. I think business services yesterday was selling the latest report, for every $1 worth of buying, over $1,700 worth of selling. So the insiders have very, very clearly been getting out. And except, you look at the institutions, the people that deposit their money in the IRAs, the mutual funds, the annuities, all of those kinds of things. That's who's going to be left with it. Yeah. Even the Treasury, the Treasury market, well, we know the off the run. So there's on the run, which is the first issue Treasuries, and that's what the central banks are buying. But then there's off the run, so that's the secondary market when you want to liquidate it. Guess who's buying those? People for retirement. Good luck to that.
Yeah.
At the lowest interest rates in history. Or near them, anyway.
No, it's heart-wrenching because you're absolutely right. And I just read an article about this the other day. These pension funds, so many of which are unfunded as it is, which is really unimaginable given the stock market run-up. I mean, what have they been doing? Were they waiting for better returns someday? This is the best returns they could have ever gotten. And now they're going to be stuck.
Fees.
Yeah, well, they're going to be stuck holding the bag when this thing crashes. Right. And these pensioners are going to be cheated out of what they think they have coming in the future. It's just going to be devastating. And that's why we've been talking for so long about holding physical gold and silver. We can talk more about that in a second. But you emailed me something that I had not yet heard of. And when you emailed me, I thought of the fourth turning. But that's not it. You wanted to talk about something called the fourth industrial revolution that you've recently been studying. Tell us about that.
Well, that has to do with not just the cryptocurrencies. The cryptocurrencies are being used to get us comfortable with it, but this fourth industrial revolution is how artificial intelligence and big data and the Internet of Things and the sensors all over and the cameras all over. It integrates, you actually, I think, didn't you have a really good definition, which I don't have in front of me, but it connects.
I did. Yeah, I'll just read this to folks. I don't want to steal your thunder.
Yeah,
You brought this
perfect.
to my attention in an email, so I quickly just researched it, and it says this: the fourth industrial revolution is described as a range of new technologies that are fusing the physical, digital, and biological worlds in impacting all disciplines, economies, and industries. Now, that doesn't make the hair on the back of your neck stand up when you think about cryptocurrencies, an AC chain, and the Internet of Everything. I don't know what will, because add into that transhumanism in the satanic future, my words, not yours. I think that's where they want to take us. So I haven't heard of this, and it's a little alarming.
Oh, let me tell you, I am so grateful for being on the YouTube and having to do these research reports. And when people will say to me, will you look at this or will you look at that? Because had I not been doing this, I would be as clueless about all of this as everybody else. But here's the piece, because it is that deep. At first you read it and you go, well, sustainability. Hey, I'm an urban farmer. I'm all about self-sufficiency and sustainability and community. And this is how this new world is being pushed. But you want to look back and the sharing community. But you want to step back and you want to look at how everything is integrated and then transformed in a very neat, manageable package by the powers that be, whether they're the central banks or even higher than that, or, I don't know. I'm really not into conspiracy theory, but these are things that I'm reading. And also, when you then take into account all of the reports where the central banks always talk about creating that distance between their policy and how it's introduced to the public. So they can take all of these things, package them up so they look really good and beneficial, and they can make the prices really visible with the cryptocurrencies and all of this and all these Bitcoin. Everybody's looking for blockchain, Bitcoin. We want to get involved. We are really involved. But you need to be careful, because that's being used to get you as a human, as a normal person, to go, ooh, blockchain, oh, cryptocurrencies, look at how much money I made. Isn't this fabulous? And then you're telling your neighbors, when it's really the idea over here to get us into one big pool that's easy to control. Because if everything is in cyberspace, it's easy to control.
Right. Yeah, and just to flush this out a little further and give credit to, I guess, Professor Klaus Scwab, this is based on his book, The Fourth Industrial Turning. And, the third industrial revolution was, of course, the digital revolution. It got us on the Internet. It gave us computers, personal computers, laptops, these robotic little smartphones we have, which now have more power. You have more power in the palm of your hand than, I guess, evidently, the power they had to send astronauts to the moon, if you believe we went. My words, right. Not yours. But seriously, guys, Schwab sees as part of this revolution emerging technology breakthroughs in fields such as artificial intelligence, robotics, the Internet of Things, autonomous vehicles, 3D printing, quantum computing, and nanotechnology. The fourth wave of the Industrial Revolution is expected to see the heavy implementation of several emerging technologies with high potential of disruptive effects. And this is probably why they're talking about universal basic income. The central bankers, the people that run the planet, can see what's coming. And it could be a future if we had benevolent dictators, and we don't. I think we have malevolent dictators on this planet. But if we had benevolent ones, this could be a Eden for humanity in which really nobody has to work. You don't have to trade your time and your labor for money anymore. But that's not where they're taking us, Lynette. I don't think they have any intention in the long run to take us to that Eden. Their intention is to take us to a future where they sort of run and control everything, and then can just gently or not gently decrease the population.
Well, they can. And so let's think about that. Let's take that a step further too. Because as I'm doing some research, and some of this is pretty new for me, so I have a lot more jumping into this rabbit hole to do. But I was listening, and I'm sorry, I don't really remember who it was. And he was talking about how great service jobs are because the robotics, the artificial intelligence, is going to really minimize a lot of jobs out there. So we're talking about how great the job market is. Well, it's basically going to eliminate most of the jobs out there unless you are doing something that a computer cannot do, like interacting with a human being on a human level. Okay, on a human level. So what they're saying is, oh, those other jobs, they're so boring, they're mundane, who wants to do them? You know, a service job is so much more valuable, you know, because then you're really interacting with the people and you're making a big impression. And, you know, and I'm thinking to myself, and service jobs typically don't pay a whole lot, do they? And who owns the companies, the hotels, the whatever, on which you only have this little service job? Okay, so this is really a shift to get us used to this thought process. That's not what I want. Where's that entrepreneurial spirit?
Yeah.
Right? Where is what made America great, where you could come and build a business and do something and have a level of degree, or at least a perceiving that you have a level of degree over your life. Once this is integrated, you'll have no options.
We hadn't intended, of course, we don't have a lot of discussion before we jump into these things, but we hadn't intended to really go down this path of AI. But I do want to point out that Elon Musk has warned about the dangers of AI. And if we're not collectively very careful as humanity, and you know, it's going to be impossible to control this, because if the Americans don't do it, the Chinese will. If the Chinese don't do it, the Russians will. And as soon as Pandora's box is open, if there is AI with evil intent, it's game over. And who programs the AI? Who controls the AI? If they're going to send us these robots supposedly to replace all of human labor, therefore making it so nobody has to work and we all get universal basic income, I think that's going to be very short-lived, Lynette. And I don't want to necessarily raise the alarm and show everybody the opening scene to Terminator 2 or 3. But I'll tell you what, a robotic transhumanist future in which human beings are no longer valued by the elite for being human resources, because that's what they think of us. When they can replace us with robots, we're going to be in a lot of trouble if these people are malevolent as opposed to benevolent. At that point, I don't even think gold and silver are going to do much for us.
Well, what the gold and silver will do, and I hate to say this, but it's true, they'll put you in the position of the elites because you'll actually have wealth that you can combat it with. If you don't have that, you have nothing to combat it with. But gold and silver physical in your possession is the only thing that is truly outside of the system. And even the Bank for International Settlements shows that commodity money, physical gold and silver, are the biggest part that's out of the system. Nothing else is as big as the out of the system anyway as that piece.
Yeah. You showed us that in one of our last interviews. No, it's
yes, absolutely.
Well, and it needs to be said because now, I've been saying for 5 years, I can't believe we're here now. It's 2018, guys. That 30-year prediction from the Economist magazine in 1988 predicting a world currency, which they called the Phoenix, and they said when it comes, if you read the article, it says, when it gets here, embrace it. It's upon us. So I don't know where we're headed here over the next 12 months, but it is going to be a doggone interesting year, Lynette.
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm actually really looking forward to this year because just like things feel like they're speeding up, and they are. All of this technology, I mean, what I'm hoping, this is my hope, is that enough people become aware of this so that as it is unfolding, we have a say in how it unfolds. Because like you were talking about the benevolent dictators, if we don't have a say in how this unfolds, then heaven help us all. And, you know, that's why what you do is so important, what I do is, and there are lots of other people out there that we've got to get this word out, because then they can't do it. They want that distance. They want, the powers that be want that anonymity. They want you to think that your neighbor is telling you how great this is, and so this is for your benefit, when it's really for their benefit. It's not for our benefit.
No, you're right. And one of the things that I think is it just needs to be said regarding cryptocurrencies, just real briefly, and I mentioned this to you right before we started to roll here. Anybody, and look, I hold some cryptocurrencies. I've got a little skin in the game, as I've disclosed, but you and I have talked about AC Chain, and we've talked about the possibility of digitizing assets onto a blockchain on a global basis. We know they want the Internet of Everything, in which they can track and trace literally everything in the world, from your T-shirt in your closet to your cat, to the cat food you've purchased for the cat. And it's very, very alarming. And one of the things I just want to point out, I know that some of you who follow cryptos know this, but for anybody who says Bitcoin's going to save the world, and yes, I do hold a little bit of Bitcoin, and anybody who says cryptocurrencies are going to save the world, the only way that's going to happen is if it is an honest system and it's not infiltrated by the banksters. And my point here is that Ripple, which I had friends tell me less than a year ago was a crap coin controlled by the banksters, Goldman Sachs, and some of these other criminal banks, came up with Ripple. It has now been, in my opinion, manipulated through however they're doing it. It's been manipulated to become now the second most valuable cryptocurrency out there behind Bitcoin. And I just saw a news item today as we're having this conversation that the guy behind Ripple is now worth more than Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook. Just painting the picture, guys, of how these cryptos can be manipulated into becoming a bankster's wet dream, in my opinion.
Well, and they already are. I mean, is Bitcoin out of the system when it's now got futures on several of the exchanges? I don't think so.
Yeah.
You know, and remember, they like that distance and they like that anonymity, and you participate voluntarily and you don't realize that you're really walking right into what they want you to do.
All righty. Well, let me ask you this before we let you go. I've had you on a number of times, and I know that ITM trading, you guys deal in precious metals, gold and silver in physical form.
Yes.
What do you guys do over there specifically? Tell us a little bit about what you do as chief market strategist and how folks can take advantage of your services.
Well, I appreciate you asking that question, but we really are a team here. And while, yes, indeed, you can get any kind of physical gold and silver or any precious metal from us, what we really do is we execute a strategy that takes you through the entire trend cycle. Anybody can buy gold and silver. That's really not that big of a deal. But really understanding when to use it, how to use it, where to use it, and help you through this, because there is no doubt whatsoever that this is way bigger. I was saying a money standard shift forever, but frankly, it's so much deeper than that. And that makes having gold and silver, why do you think it's so cheap? And why do you think that it's always whacked down when it starts to rise and start to get noticed? They don't whack down Bitcoin or the other blockchain or the other cryptocurrencies, but they'll whack gold and silver because that they don't want you to hold. So what we do here that makes us so different than anybody else is we have a plan, and we customize that plan to you. But it's still basically the same plan, whether it's the one that I'm executing for me or you, because we all have a little different circumstance. But we need to sustain our current standard of living through this mess, because there will be a big mess here soon. I don't know exactly the moment, but soon there will be a big mess, and they'll have to, because that's the other piece. People think that they can just transition the old system into the new system, but the garbage in the old system killed it. It killed it. Make no mistake about that. So they can't. They have to reset all of the crap that's in the old system. And so you need gold and physical silver to help you through that piece, and then also to position you for the opportunities that are going to arise. I was there on Black Monday in '87. I know what a general market route looks like, and you want to have your dry powder. This is really your dry powder. Cash is not your dry powder. They're getting rid of its value. Okay, but the physical gold and silver is your dry powder. So that's what we do here. We develop a strategy specifically for you, and then we walk you through it through the whole trend cycle. We're married. You're our client. We're married.
All righty. Well, guys, look, I don't have any relationship financially with Lynette and the company here, ITM Trading. I've just grown to like Lynette over time. We've become fast friends, I think, Lynette, and you're going to get the last laugh on a lot of these things we talk about because you got integrity, and doggone it, people like you. It's sort of a...
I know, it's shocking.
All right. Well, Lynette, thanks so much for joining us. I really do appreciate your time.
It's been my pleasure, and Happy New Year. And please be safe out there and pay attention and share. You know, I mean, that's a big key. Everybody needs to share this information.
Yeah, absolutely. Share it within your sphere of influence, guys, on social media, and send this information to your friends, neighbors, and colleagues, most of whom I bet are still not awake at this point.
Oh, gosh, it's true.
All right. Well, God bless. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in to SGT Report for Real News 24/7. And do check out our sister sites there at thephaser.com and thelibertymill.com, where we give you a variety of trusted real news from a variety of alt media sources. Friends of ours now in the world, and it's good to have friends in this crazy world. All right, Lynette, we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Be
right.
safe.
You too. Bye-bye, guys. Thanks for watching.
These indictments are going to be served, and some of the people that are arrested and perp walked are going to be absolute shockers to the public.